Okay.
Yeah.
Is that recording now? Yeah, it shows recording, so I guess we're good.
Yeah, it is recording. Sorry. Okay, we are goofing around here. I'm with Ed and Rosemary. They're driving to Bakersfield. So what have you been up to, Ed?
Yeah, we left Las Vegas. We didn't get out as early as we wanted to, around 3 o'clock, and then on the way out, there's this bad accident. There's a motorcycle just completely destroyed, and a car kind of flipped around, and so we didn't witness it, but we're there shortly after it happened. People are out looking for the motorcycle guy, can't find the body. People are like freaking out, thinking maybe he's underneath the car or got thrown over the barrier, and there's no blood, and it's like, where is this guy? And never found him. The fire department came, and then we sort of figured out as we were leaving. So here's the scenario we came up with. Motorcycle guy drive his bike and is running out of gas, like, darn, not gonna make it to the gas station. So because Rosemary, where the gas tank was, where it came off the motorcycle, there was no gas. There should have been a pool of gas. There was no gas. So we figured out that he ran out of gas, pulled over, put his flashes on, was down the road, heading to a gas station. This other guy is coming around the corner, probably fiddling with his phone, not paying attention, looks up last minute, sees his motorcycle, hits it head on, and then he was incoherent. Didn't seem to be hurt, but was probably back in a little state of shock, thinking that he just killed somebody. So no one could ask him, hey, was there a person that was on that bike when you hit it, or is it, So that's the story we're thinking. So we don't have to be thinking that there's some, dead motorcycle somewhere.
Yeah. So you're driving to Bakersfield because your adventure started in Santa Barbara on Wednesday. And so for people not familiar, because not everybody watching these videos ends up knowing exactly what you're doing. So why don't we just start off? We last talked, you were heading to Born to Run, and just kind of go through the past couple of days, what's been going
on. So I had this big goal of trying to do 3 separate 100-mile races in 4 days. So the first one was Born to Run, which has different race options, but the 2 most popular are the 100-mile event. And Born to Run is it's on a big cattle ranch, 20,000 acre private cattle ranch, and they have 2 separate 10-ish mile loops. The race director says, he said, look, don't come show me your Garmin. Your Garmin's going to say 10.7. So just deal with it. Don't worry about it. And the first loop's 10.7. The next loop, maybe a little less, which I'm not sure it was. I think it was probably 10 as well. So that's fine. We're all running the same event. So whether we ran 100 miles or 104 at the end doesn't really matter. But so you do these 2 10-mile loops. And then for the 100-mile race, of course, you do that 5 times. For the 4-day event, it's like a fixed time event, but instead of having a 1 or 2 mile loop, basically it's a 20-mile, one time around. So you do as many of the loops as you can. So I asked the race director, could I just be entered into the 100-mile race, because it's the same course, and just do an early start. It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So the race started Wednesday at noon. I got through the 100 miles by Thursday at 3. Another accident looked like we just passed by, possibly. Anyway, I got to the race Thursday at 3, so about 27 hours. And from there, left, went to Bakersfield, which is about a 2.5 hour ride. Adam let me stay at his place, and got about 4 hours sleep. And then you drove to Vegas. We left Bakersfield at 3 a.m. Got to Vegas at 7, about an hour before the race. And then I entered the USATF 100-mile race.
I was gonna say, Ed, can you stop for just a minute? Oh, Ed, I don't use Zoom that often. I thought when I said make you host, you were gonna be like a co-host, so we could maybe handle something. I want to share screens, but you have to do that, or maybe you can make me a host Do you know how to do that on the phone?
I can. Let
Yeah.
me.
Because I was going to share the Born to Run screen and some of my photos, and I didn't realize. I thought, oh, we were going to be co-hosts, kind of like on a Clubhouse or something.
All right, I just
Okay.
made you the host.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was like trying to share the Born to Run, and before you continued on there, I wanted to tell you about the Born to Run results in the 4-day, and guess who won the Born to Run?
Hervé?
Yes. Yep, Hervé won it.
Did he get 200 miles in?
Oh, he went 240.
Wow, good
Yeah,
for him.
I can't pull up the results right now. Well, it's because let me see if I can. I always have the hardest time finding that. Oh, there it is. Negative split IO. Yeah, well, I mean that's really cool. I mean, I don't know if he's ever won a race outright, so that was very.
No, I don't think he has. And wow, well, I have the course record with 270. I've done it twice, and there's 260, and I think he probably is next on the course record there. I'm betting.
Yeah, well, it was just really cool to see. I didn't look up the results till today. I was kind of been busy recovering and doing all kinds of stuff, and pull it up, and he was 240 miles, and he did the 200 miles in under 80 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so congratulations to him. And then the guy Jeff Collins was 230.
Oh, he stepped it up.
67-year-old.
So they must have a little competition going on, because in the past, when I wasn't there, Jeff Collins has won. So he may have thought, well, Ed ducked out after 100 miles, and then there's a little competition between, which is good. They probably pushed each other.
Yeah, well, he got to the 100 an hour before Hervé, but then Hervé beat him to the 200 by about 15 minutes. So yeah, it looks like they definitely had a race. And then it was first female was Aya Lee, 47, 210 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, and then William Skiles got to 200 miles, and Otto Gutierrez was 200 miles as well. So those were kind of the top people. I don't really recognize many other names, but I definitely wanted to remind myself to tell you that
Cool.
Hervé won it.
Yeah, so Hervé and I did a couple of loops together, because we had just done Blue Beyond Limits Ultra.
Yeah.
10 days before that.
Yeah.
And he had done, I think, 188 miles possibly. He's done 200 miles of Blue before, but this time just didn't feel like pushing himself that hard. So I'm glad to hear that he.
Well, and then at Blue, you were in front of Scott, and Scott won at Jackpot. Yeah. Who knew that doing 72-hour race a couple weeks before another 4-day or 72 race worked so well? In fact, Hervé, the fourth best performance is 250, so he'll slot into fifth best at that race.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning Scott, so Scott took third place in the 72-hour Blue with, I believe, 202 miles, and he
actually
sure he won Jackpot.
Yeah, he actually, Scott got to like 207 miles, I believe. I'll pull it up here if my computer would work. Oh, that's what I'm okay. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, we stopped you. Yeah, so Ed got to my house. I mean, he got to Bakersfield. He stayed at Adams. We left Bakersfield at 3:00. Had a pretty smooth sail there, and got there to the race, and kind of immediately found out, it was definitely going to be warm, and to say the least. And it was a pretty amazing race. Before the race, we got to talk to Zach Bitter and Camille and all a bunch of them. Yeah, he did 83 laps, so that was 207.5 miles. Scott did, and Tony Moore guy he did 80 laps. He did 200, and then Jennifer Gotti was the first female with 66 laps. And
yeah. So Jennifer Gotti and I have a little bit of a history. I didn't remember until she reminded me. She said, "Okay, Ed, my first marathon was Carlsbad Marathon in January of 2011, so 10 years ago." She said, "I didn't make it. It's a 6.5-hour cutoff. Didn't make it." She said, "Here comes this Jester guy and finds me out of the course and walks me to the finish and tells me, 'It's okay, you'll get a finish medal.'" And she said, "I was all complaining that I was so late, and I had told her, well, you know what? You should think about doing an ultra, like a 50-mile race. And at the time, she tells me at the time she's thinking, who is this crazy guy? I'm barely getting through a marathon, like one of the last people, and then he's saying I should go do double the distance. So then she ends up stepping up, and she's from Las Vegas.
Yes.
So she's done Jackpot before, steps up and does, well and progresses.
Oh yeah, I know her. She's real bubbly and friendly.
Yes.
I know Jennifer. Yeah, I spent some time at Beyond Limits one year doing a ton of laps with her, and I went up to their Halloween harvest race and did probably 10 miles with her at that. So now I totally know who you are.
Real friendly, and then and she ends up winning the overall women's 72-hour race. So it's like, wow, in that 10-year span. So she's like, well, it was you're the one that told me that I could do hundreds. So here I could barely finish a marathon. Now I'm winning a race at 72 hours. It's like, well, you just had it in you. You just didn't know. You just need someone to plant that seed. So that was cool.
165 miles isn't bad for a 3-day event, especially with the conditions you guys had. Hot Friday, windy Saturday, and Sunday was kind of a hodgepodge of everything. So let's go back to where we got to the race. You put on your uniform.
Can you do a favor for me real quick? Could you just see where my finish time ended up fitting into the 100-mile at Born to Run? I'm just curious. I know I certainly doubt I even was in the top 10, but I'm just curious.
There wasn't they just have this kind of little, this guy named, and you know what I'm doing now with names, because I can't pronounce any names. Like second place, I can't, Barry Vincent, but when they're difficult names, I'm just going to say them the way I think they are. So it's Dimitar Skolovsky, 32, did 20:40. Barry Vince went 23:54. They were the only two under 24. Alexander Shakenberg was 24:20. And let's see, the first woman was quite a ways down. The first woman was Ismelda Canelo, and she was 29:39. So you would have been, they don't put the numbers on these things either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, well, no, yeah, oh no, you're here, Bill. You're 8. You were 8th with your 27:05.
All right. Out of what, 30 finishers maybe, or?
Again, in their results, they don't put the number 9.
Oh.
Yeah, there looks like there's about 30 or 40, but yeah, it's just trying to count them. But yeah, so that was and
okay. Yeah. All right, I was just curious. Okay, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay, so we get the Jackpot, and then that's the USATF. So there's 2 different courses. The championship course, which is this really nice 1.2 mile loop, kind of like NASCAR, and paved, some concrete, a little bit of what do you call that? Crushed gravel. That's whatever you call that surface, but dirt road kind of, but it's smooth. So nice course, just a little bit of a hill. You climb up and then come back down. Not ideal for trying to set a world record course, but still a fast course. But the heat was not good, and so anyway, I was in that, but got the chance to, what you could say, rub elbows. Of course, I'm, twice or I'm half the speed.
Ed, why don't move the camera, because you only got about a quarter of your face in, so move it. So I mean, because all they're seeing is like your mouth. Oh. Now all we see is my big old. Well, we can just see her and you can talk.
my big old. That's what I should do. Put the camera on Rosemary.
Yeah.
And then who wants to see my ugly mug with my?
Well, all we have is like your mouth there, and it was really interesting. Ed, while I don't know if you want to mess with your camera or you can just leave it like that. But anyways, it's just you're like only about a quarter of your face is basically just this mouth. But
well, that's because I'm deaf. And I have to hold it near my ear so I can hear you. And then by doing that, it might be better for me to just turn the camera off. What do you think?
Wait, yeah, yeah, that'd be fine too. Or let's do that. Yeah, that works better.
All right.
Yeah,
That way
because
I can,
well,
that way I can
let me go.
Excellent.
I wanted to make a comment. Some of the people talking on the internet, because we know you weren't on the internet during the race or after the race.
No.
It was funny. I had one person in particular, but I'm sure others. Somebody's like going, "Look at all that concrete," and you know how I hate sidewalks and concrete. But every time I'm there, I don't really. The concrete there isn't as bad as some concrete. You know what I mean? It doesn't like every time I've ran there. I have usually like across the years. There's that one concrete section that's 100 yards long, and it's the most painful thing in the world. But for some reason at Jackpot, the concrete doesn't bother me as much. But I had somebody say, "Oh my God, look at all that concrete," and I'm like, "No." I always say the USTF race is a big NASCAR loop, and then the 2.5 mile loop that you did, it's Formula One with all the twists and turns and different surfaces and stuff. So yeah, you're out there, and of course you were wearing your suit. What color did you wear at Santa Barbara? You hear me?
Santa Barbara was blue.
Yeah.
Did the 100 mile there. And then that was my 198th 100 mile, official 100 mile finish. And then the first race I did at Jackpot, the championship USATF course, that was the red suit for 100 mile number 199. And then the final one I did there was the green suit.
Yeah. And so and how was the suit in the heat?
You know, I'm used to heat running. I'm sure if I had regular running clothes on, I would say it's hot, but you get used to what you're running in, and I'm used to the Jester hat and the suit. So it was a little toasty, but I never got overheated. I made my pace match the conditions and my ability in the heat. So it looks much worse. If you see a guy, running around in a suit in a big, thick Jester hat, it looks like, oh, that guy must be burning up in the heat, but it's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah, and then I
was gonna say it didn't stay warm. It was warm. It was hot the first day, but then the wind kicked in the second day, and the third day it was actually kind of cold.
It was chilly last night. We had wind, and it was cold actually.
Yeah, it rained here in Bakersfield last night, and it was nice. I went out. It was a nice morning. I went for a walk this morning in the drizzling rain, and it was like 68 this afternoon. So I figured, because when I left, it just was getting cloudier and cloudier. In fact, I hit quite a bit of traffic yesterday. It was amazing. I was like, man, why are all these people on the road? But that's always kind of how it works. But it was interesting, being able to watch you out there with all the people flying around the course, and the female race ended up being super close.
Yeah.
They ended up being like 9 minutes apart, which is just.
And the world record holder isn't the one who won.
Yeah, I know. It was funny. You didn't realize that. I remember when I walked with you that later that morning or something. I go, yeah, Camille came in second. And in fact, I was talking to some other people. I think I went on somewhere, and they're like, they were under assumption they thought Camille came in second overall.
I did too.
Yeah. So you had Zach at 12:52. Jacob was 14:12, and then Stephanie Flippin was 14:35. So she's only 23 minutes behind Jacob. And she just, the entire run, she looked like she was running like a half marathon. She'd run by me, and I was like, I'm looking at the results. I think that I finally checked the numbers, and I was like, that's her, but she just looked so good. She's from Evergreen, California, 31. And I guess her only other 100 was she did the Tunnel Hill in Illinois and broke 16. And so, yeah, Camille was 14:42, 7 minutes behind her. And then Micah Morgan, who looked great most of the race too, she was 14:44. So she was 9 minutes behind. And then Patrick Regan was after them. So, yeah, so we had all three women within 10 minutes of each other, which is just, and that's why it was kind of crazy the last hours of the race. Everybody's crew was over by the timer getting splits, and everybody's, it was, and what's more impressive that Stephanie running such a great race is, having Camille Herron chasing you down. That's That's what was really amazing because, that's some pressure. And obviously she knows who Camille is. So very cool performance. And so how did you feel like in the race? You seem to be motoring along pretty good most of the time.
Yeah, I think I came in just under 28. I think
Yeah.
for the 100 mile.
Yeah, you were in just after just before noon.
Yeah, so I felt good about it. I mean, I had just got through running a trail race with I supposedly it's 18,000 feet of gain in the 100 miles they're born to run. If that's true, then I did surprisingly well for that much gain because I'm not usually that good at a race with much climb, and I didn't think it had that much climb. But then I'm going around with Hervé, who's from the Gold Country, the Sierra Foothills, Camino Placerville, and he does a lot of hiking up in the mountains. And he's like, "Yeah, no, we're climbing. There's a lot of climbing we're doing." So he felt that maybe was accurate. So, yeah, considering that I just came off of that at 27 hours, and one day later, doing a 28, I was happy with it. I don't know that I would have, if I tried going any faster, that would have been very smart. On fresh legs, I think I could have probably done that course, and if, well, okay, let's go with the conditions that were there with the heat and with me wearing the suit. I think I could have sub 24'd, but I certainly wouldn't have been anywhere near competitive with any of the men or women. But the good thing is, so it was the USATF Championship 100-mile road race. So you had to be a member of the USATF and have a membership number. On the back, everybody had to wear a bib that showed their age division, so you knew if you're running against your own division. So I'm an old dude, 58, so I'm running in the 55 to 59 group, and I knew the two guys. The one I knew pretty well, Jean Pomier. I ran with him quite a few times and beat him once or twice, but most of the time he beats me. He's a really fast guy and little kind of wiry French American guy. Anyway, so we were talking, and it's like, well, as long as I finish, I'm guaranteed bronze in my age division for the USATF. And then the second place guy, Jean was, he finishes. I'm like, oh, where's Garrett? And it's funny because Jean is a French guy. You don't think of them necessarily having much humor, but he's like, oh, yeah, I ran him down for you. I got him out of the race for you. It's thanks.
He ended up doing 21:25. Gene did, or John. Yeah, and he's entertaining. I've spent many a race when he's whizzing around me, and he's got kind of that dry, sly kind of wit. And so it was fun to watch him, and he was rolling along there. And so you had 27:38 was your time. You came in 24th in the race, and there was 28 finishers.
All right, so I wasn't DFL, so and I ended up getting second in my age division for USA, and then I'm pretty sure you were the one. I haven't had much sleep, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I was talking to you about it and going, well, it's kind of anticlimactic. I mean, I'm third, but there's nobody else here, so and you're like, hey, it was open to anybody. People came from around the country, from different states to be here,
or didn't come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
no. It's not like it was a secret, like, okay, we're going to put on a national championship. And you just kind of, I was there 2 years ago when they first had it in 2019. But unfortunately, that year, they only gave us a 30-hour time limit, which was pretty tough. And it was cold. And, me and Fast Eddie, the 78, 79-year-old, now 80, me and him were going back and forth throughout the race. And I got to 65 or so miles, did the math, and realized we're not making 80 miles in 24. So I packed up, went home, and by the time I got home, it was about 24-hour zone, and I hit the results, and poor Fast Eddie didn't make that 30-hour cutoff. But then last year, he actually went 30 hours and like 7 minutes, and got the record for the 80-year-olds, but then another 80-year-old went under 30. So he was going after that this time, but he ended up stopping. He was just getting slower and slower. And even though they originally had a 34-hour cutoff, then they bumped up to 38 because of the heat, he realized it wasn't worth just being out there for that amount of time. So yeah, it was definitely a difficult race for everybody. No one was really, performing. Like we said, we talked to Zach before the race, and he said, he wasn't really looking for a time. He was looking to win the race, and he got $2,500 plus $500 for getting the course record. And Stephanie also got $3,000 because she broke the course record as well. So that was pretty cool too. And then like second place was only like 750. So it's like 2,500 down to 750, and third was 250. So, they were racing for, a chunk of change there, $1,700 difference between first and second.
Well, I'm really impressed with Jake Jackson coming in second overall, and second male in first in his age division. Because Zach is in the open division and Jake was 40 to 44.
Yeah,
that guy's really stepped up, and there are a lot of strong runners that either he beat or he beat by default because they dropped out of the race, which is still a win over them. And
everybody always forgets that. Everybody always forgets that Jacob was, on our USA team and went some crazy 165 miles just a couple years ago.
Sure.
It's it's just kind of like everybody kind of. I mean, I don't think he doesn't have the foot speed of people in 100 per se. He's not going to run a 13, but he definitely is a lot faster than he's definitely got the. Why can't I find his name here? This is weird. But yeah, so he can move.
And there's all on the male side that dropped. The females all stuck in there, got through the hot weather and pushed themselves and did really well. There's a new kid on the block, Nick, don't know his last name. If you got the results, you can pull it up. His first 100 and went out a bit strong, hanging with the big guys, and shouldn't have, but that's how you learn, young guy. And he really kind of blew up, and then instead of dropping like other guys did, he went around super slow loop, slowly recomposed himself, got back, finished the 100. Wasn't an impressive time compared to other times there, but it was his first 100. And then I found out later on he's a type 1 diabetic, and of course our friend Joel Lives is type 1 diabetic. Stephanie really the race director, the co-race director, was a type 1 diabetic. And in fact, I was doing a 100-mile race in Las Vegas, and Ken has only done a couple of hundreds. He was doing the 100-mile race there. Next thing I see, Ken's in a car pulling up next to me on the road. It's a road race, and he's like, "Ed, I'm out of the race. We just got a call. They've got a pancreas and a kidney for Stephanie, and we're heading to the airport to fly to Arizona." So with type 1 diabetes, the only cure is a new pancreas, but they're never going to give you a new pancreas because you can take insulin and you can control it through monitoring your blood sugar levels. And once they give you an organ, you're forever, for the rest of your life, you're taking anti-rejection drugs. So they weighing it out, their thing is, you're better off just staying diabetic. But what's not uncommon for diabetics is they end up with kidney failure. So if they're going to get on the kidney donor list, they're going to wait and get a double organ donor. They'll give them a kidney and a pancreas, and suddenly they're cured of diabetes. Well, my youngest daughter is a type 1 diabetic, had been since the age of 12 or 10. And with our insurance at the time, we had Major Medical, and the insulin pump is a $14,000 piece of equipment. So we were getting ready to make the purchase. Well, medical devices can't be resold, but they can be gifted. And since Stephanie was cured of diabetes, she gifted my daughter her pump. So that's kind of our history. And then, so this young guy, who's actually younger than my daughter is now. My daughter's now 26.
And what was his name?
Nick.
Oh, Nick Eben, Bellingham, Washington. He's 26.
Yeah, he looks
He
like
did
he's
1843.
yeah, which is not bad at all. He looks like he's 16. He looks super young and small little guy. But yeah, so it was cool at the end to chat with him a little bit. It was his first 100. So considering what he came back from, that's actually faster than I thought he did. I thought he did 20 or something. So yeah, I was super impressed with seeing. I mean, to be honest, I was more impressed with his performance than Zach's or Camille's. And they were impressive, but they're all veterans of the 100-mile event. They know how to properly pace themselves for the heat. This guy was, a new situation. He's from Washington. He's obviously not used to heat. It'd have been legit for him to drop out. So many big names dropped, and so it'd been like, well, yeah, understandable. But he hung in there, and 18 hours that's not a shabby time on that course and that heat. Sure, if you compare it to the winners, it doesn't look like it's all that good. But any other race, he'd have probably won it.
Yeah, most definitely. I was going to tell. I pulled up Jake. It's like Jake. I pulled up Jake, and so like I kind of want to just look at his history, and so he like you. So he did like Kodiak 100, which is very hard, 25:12, and he went back and got under 24. But he really got rolling in 2017. He did 18:05 for the Javelina 100, but then he went to the Coldwater Rumble and went 15:53 and won. And then he went at Angeles Crest. He came in second in 1936, and then that was his breakout where he ended up running the Desert Solstice in 2018, 157 miles, 14:19. And I was at that. That was kind of that's how he made the American team. And then, of course, when he was on, in fact, he ran in 2019, he went 15:20. So he went an hour faster this year on the 100-mile course. And then, of course, he ran in the World Championships where the Americans won. And he was seventh. He was eighth overall, seventh male, and went 164.7 miles at that event.
Yeah, and he's not a spring chicken. He's in his 40s now. So,
and he's a full-time UPS truck driver. He made that clear because I thought he was jumping in and out of the car all the time. And I go, well, that's a workout. He goes, no. He goes, he does the long haul, like he drives the big trucks. So yeah, he's often, if you follow him on Instagram, he'll sometimes have pictures of him in his uniform working, and so he's pulling the shifts.
And he used to be a bigger guy. He's lost a good amount of weight.
Yeah, and I talked to his wife, and his wife was really fun to talk to, and they've got like 3 kids that are kind of 10 to 17, so they're in high school at Redlands. One of them's running cross country, and she's been coaching cross country, and they're often on Instagram training, running together. And she was this race, the USTF, also one of the things that was really important was, it's also just like the race of the crews, because it was like freaking NASCAR, except that they are having to deal with these guys every mile. So, poor crew, it's like every 10 minutes, Zach and Camille and all of them were coming in, and everyone was throwing ice towels on them and drinks, and everyone else besides you was staying sopping wet to get that cooling effect. So it was kind of interesting just to watch that whole thing. I kind of wish these races, they don't allow pacers, but I kind of wish they didn't allow crew, because, if you come to this race and you don't really have a dedicated crew, you're at a great disadvantage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know, because I didn't. So it's a race. Well, it's like San Diego 100 and other races are now having a division where you're solo.
Yeah.
Because and it's a little bit different in a race like this. You can't have a pacer, but you can have a crew. So that definitely saves you time. If you're doing 80 laps, and if every lap you're coming in and it's hot, so you're getting some hydration.
Yeah.
Well, I have a semi crew, and that because I know the people in the aid station, they kind of they'll fill my water bottle up for me, so I don't have to stop and do it. So I can't say I didn't have crew per se, but that was their job. They didn't do any other crewing for me or getting me any ice towels or any of that stuff, and that's fine. But
but the thing is, you were talking about the trail races. the trail races aren't doing it to make competition fair. They're doing it so they can keep their permits because there's way too many people on the roads. And so they do that, like Angel's Crest, they give you benefit. You can get in the race easier if you do the solo division, but it's not for competitiveness. It's so there's less cars on the mountain road,
Right.
something I've talked about before. But what I was just saying is, like, like Marissa really didn't have a dedicated crew, and you kind of see that she ended up ultimately coming in fourth. Now, she may not slow down in performance too, but of the four there, she had a few people helping her. But like I said, it's just kind of, I've never, I guess because we had so many great fast athletes, I've never seen so much action, you know what I mean, in terms of the crews, really just every lap. And I mean, I think of running more as an individual sport, and it's often like watching it going, wow, it just seemed like this total team operation. So definitely it was fun to watch, but it was kind of like, wow. And so, you were out there in the 48-hour and 72-hour people were doing the 2.5 mile loop, which is what you were going to do. So you finished the USTF 100. I brought out your other uniform, you put on your other suit, and you went off and headed out there. And things seemed to be going okay, but then it kind of just fell. You just started slowing down a lot later, didn't you?
Yeah, I was, feeling the effects of not getting any sleep, and it was warm. And I was just doing some slow loops. I'd go out and just couldn't get a reset. My body was just worn out, and the heat was going to get to me. And I know if I'm on the line a little bit, and if you push a bit more, you're going off the edge, and then you're really in trouble. But I didn't want to take breaks because then the clock's still ticking. So it's that kind of gray zone where you're trying to figure out, all right, is the payoff better to take a longer break and really get some good rest, go out there at a faster pace, over time make up for the time you took off, or are you going to take a break and get back out there and they get the same pace, and you're like, wow, I just wasted an hour or 2 hours. And that's part of what I enjoy about these events, is because there is some strategizing going on, and especially if you're by yourself, you have to make these decisions. If you have a crew, they decide for you. They'll tell you, oh, here, take a nap right now. Like, look at how Joe does it. Joe's like Forrest Gump of the fixed time event. They tell him, Joe, get out there. If you can do this, next 10 miles in this amount of time, we're going to give you a 4-hour sleep break. And then he comes in, all right, you earned your sleep break. Get back on the course now. I mean, but he's not making his decisions, but he has crew there.
But Ed, you also don't ever listen to anyone when we do make suggestions. So, we'll tell you like, hey, take a 2-3 hour break here and then come back out, and you'll go, okay. And then next thing we know, you head back out after a 15-20 minute. So like I said, you kind of got with your thing. But yeah, I mean, like I'm looking at your splits, and so you were doing your regular 45, 48, but then when you got to lap 8, 20 miles in, it was a 90-minute lap. And then you went back to the 45s, and then at 32 miles, it was a 90-minute. At 37, you went 225, and then, like I think you told me, then you ended up lap 16 took 80 minutes. So you kind of took a break and then still kind of went out, and then you were good, up to 50 miles, because that's when we realized, it took you about 20 hours to get to that 50, that you weren't going to be able to make and you moved in, decided to do the 72. And then you were going along pretty good during the day doing 50s.
So we should explain if anybody's getting confused about the numbers. I was originally going to do the USATF and finish that, and as soon as I finish that, jump into what you were referring to as the civilian 100, which started at 8 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah.
And that also had a 38-hour 2.5 mile loop, which is not a good loop for speed, because there's that one segment that's rocky and yucky
and the grass.
And there's the grass, you have to go up and over. So yeah, not ideal for doing a faster one. But you're right. And then I started 4 hours after the race began, but my cutoff time was still 38 hours, but I had a 34-hour cutoff time because I had
which was the original
time.
cutoff. Yeah.
Right. And then so in 20 hours, I do 50 miles. While you do the math, even if I kept that pace and did it without much rest, it's a 40-hour 100 and would have been well beyond the cutoff. So then the race director put me in with the 72-hour people, and their race, instead of ending Sunday night at 10 p.m., it ended Monday morning at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And you had to get back. We had made a plan that I would drive back with you after finishing the second 100, but I was going way too slow. So you had to get back, and you were in the aid station, saying, "Oh, I gotta leave," and Ed's, we have to figure out how to get him a rental car or something. And it happened to be that Rosemary was there, and she's like, "Well, I could take him back." And you're like, "Oh yeah, but because she lives in Southern California," and you're like, "Well, no, his car was in Bakersfield."
Oh no, she was gonna take you, but I was like, his car's in Bakersfield.
Well, even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was quite excited because I'm actually going to go up to Sacramento to visit my mom, and then I would be naturally just going that direction, so it worked out perfectly.
Oh yeah, it was just, well, what happened was, I had to be, we're planning getting home sometime Sunday, probably late Sunday, but I had appointments on Monday morning, and so it was like I needed to go. So Ed had talked earlier on some other clubhouse thing about maybe renting a rental car, so I knew it always in his head. So I was first just saying to her, like, you're going to be here and maybe you can help him out, get into the car and all that. And then you're like, oh, and I knew you lived in Southern California. And then you're like, well, I'll take him. And then you were pretty happy. But then when I said, oh, it's in Bakersfield, you really lit up like, oh, cool. And so that was really, it all kind of just perfect storm. So then I talked to Ken, made sure everything was good there, and went out and told Ed what was going on. Actually, I'm looking here, and you know what? Your worst lap in that 72-hour was only 2 hours and 46 minutes, meaning you only took about a 2-hour break, the longest break of the race. And after that, you had a 90-minute lap and some 70-minute laps, like lap 39, lap 40.
Probably.
You broke up. Ed broke up.
90-minute lap. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock morning. Tell me if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me at all. Any better?
We were breaking up.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So probably I'm guessing that 90-minute lap was during the witching hours, midnight to sunup.
Yeah.
And so I'm just looking for somebody to hang on to, but someone to share the lap with, because it just gets really boring and lonely. And then when you're tired, it's so easy to fall asleep if you're by yourself. So
oh yeah,
I would hook up with different people. So one of the people that I hooked up with the lap with, I thought, oh, it'll be fun to go out and do a lap with Bill Dickey, who I love him. He's a great guy. But oh my goodness, we were going so slow on that lap. And I told him I want to do a lap with him. So I didn't want to suddenly say, Bill, you're just too slow for me. I'm going to take off. And I knew I had plenty of time to get 100 in, but I wanted to see if I can get a few more miles. So that may have been that 90-minute loop may have been with Bill. It was fun. I enjoyed it. We had a good conversation, but I was ready when I got in to do something faster.
Yeah.
So
and we have to tell the audience that Bill is 81 years old.
That's right. Yeah. But you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it because he really, other than he's a bit slower, but tough as nails. Super tough, strong guy. He'll be up there all night.
He's at every 6-day race there is. And yeah, he ended up he got his 100 miles in. He got 40 laps. And yeah, he finished up, let me see. Yeah, so yeah, he got his 100 miles in. Yeah, and he was doing, those one losing you. Oh, so anyways, Ed broke up. You broke up. And we keep.
All right, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you were breaking up kind of crazy. So it was cool to see that. And then of course, Scott's dad, Chris, got his 100 miles and he wanted to do it under like 90 hours. So he got his. And so, yeah. And so you had Scott, the younger, get his lap. So was all in all good. And then you also ended up doing some miles with someone else, right? At the end?
Yeah, there's this young blind woman, Terry, just so impressive. Out there running with guides at times, and then she also had a pole, a blind pole that she would run with, and so she had done her 100, the 72. She lives in Las Vegas. She went home, got showered, got to sleep, came back out the next morning, went to the last couple of hours, get some miles in. So I went out with her, which was good because she was somewhat fresh legs, and we picked up the pace, and we got some good miles in and had a good conversation, and we helped each other. I ended up getting more miles. I don't even know what I ended up with, but certainly more miles overall than I was expecting.
Yeah. Well, you
maybe on the 100.
She ended up doing.
So that was really fun.
She ended up doing 46, so she did 115 miles, I think is the math, and you ended up doing 107.5 miles. So you ended up doing 43 laps.
So which means, I mean, obviously I did it in 2 races, but I matched Scott's mileage, the same miles he did in the 72. I had that with mine. So I feel good about that I, at least the guy who won the 72-hour, I was able to stay with his mileage, although, I came in obviously having already ran 100.
Yeah.
But so Scott and I both we did blue and both got over 200 miles there, and then we both did jackpot, both got over 200 miles there. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, so definitely a good adventure. And so where are you guys now on your drive?
We're coming up right now to a sign. Let me see. It's the 395 Bishop San Bernardino cutoff. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I just figured you guys haven't got through Barstow yet, have you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did go to Barstow.
Oh yeah, so you guys are heading towards.
An hour and a half away.
You're heading toward, you're near Mojave and heading towards the Tehachapi and the old downhill and all that stuff. So yeah, I know that drive well. Unfortunately, like I said, when I came home yesterday, and I haven't done a ultra and I haven't even been at one since Jackpot in January of 2020. So for me, just being outdoors all day Friday was pretty tiresome. Not even running, but oftentimes just hanging out and doing stuff at races. And so I ended up kind of staying there all day Friday. And then thankfully I got an Airbnb after I had the gigantic fiasco and was able to get some sleep, which really needed because, yesterday was my anniversary of going to the hospital for the first time in my life. And so it was an interesting time. So it worked out really well that I didn't really sleep much at my Airbnb, only got a couple hours of sleep, but at least I was able to get home and just stopped a couple times just to really wasn't really sleepy, thankfully. But yeah, the traffic's just kind of was crazy. So it's all good. So I guess, you're heading over to Adams, and Adam said definitely if you wanted to rest up there, you're more than welcome to. I talked to him earlier today, but I guess you'll be rolling in there.
Yeah, so it's perfect because Rosemary's going to spend the night there. I spent the night there Thursday night, and he also has a couch. My wife was saying, because it's a 2.5-hour drive from his place to mine, and we'll get there about 9. My wife was saying, you know what, just stay there on the couch and then come out early. So I might do that as well. But it was pretty cool when I finished my 200 at 4:40 in the morning. They had a little cake there with 200, 200 candles, and so it was just an intimate group of. And just after that, Bill came in and finished his for his 100, and then Rodney, Rodney, the big black linebacker guy, had done his 100, and actually he had done 132.5, and it just had a vomit fest. And I came around and said, Rodney, just do one more loop. 135 is kind of a special number to me. It's like, why? What's that number about? And then, of course, talked to him about Mountwater. So we did his final loop together. So it was him and Bill and myself and Rosemary, and of course the race director, husband, wife, Kate, Stephanie,
Yeah.
and the kind of co-race director, Lee and Lori, and so
Yeah, the kitchen volunteer.
yeah, there's a volunteer little area there.
Yeah.
So it was, and then of course they broke out the what is it, the cinnamon, what is it they call the alcohol, that cinnamon, Fireball. Yeah. So everybody's saying Fireball. I don't, because
Yeah.
I
Well, yeah, I had woke up. In fact, last night we were kind of missing each other. I'm notorious for not sleeping well, so I was passing out for a couple hours. I woke up and you wrote me, and I write you back, and then you didn't have your phone, and I actually was up at like 3:30, and so hitting refresh. So at 4 o'clock, I had known you'd gotten to the 100 in, so I knew that you gotten that done, and then just figured we'd hear from you sometime later. So you're gonna head back to home tomorrow, I guess, and have work to do with the got work to go to, CPR stuff.
Yeah, I'll be working during the week, and then I'm my plan as far as future coming up here. I'm gonna try and do 300s in May, 2 in June, 1 early July, so that Badwater will be my 10th consecutive Badwater, but it'll also be my 207th official 100-mile finish, which, as far as I know, I need to double check, but that will break the world record for most lifetime hundreds. So that'll be something fun to look forward to.
I was almost wondering if she was in that race this weekend where the guy broke Zach's record.
Boy, it could
I don't
be. That's a possibility. So yeah, Sandra Brown from Great Britain, who is now 72, and you think, well, she's 72. You know, what do you have to worry about, Ed? Well, at 70, she did 8 100-mile races, and some of those were sub 24. She's a power walker. She walked those. So at 72, being a power walker that can still knock out a sub 24, yeah, she's a formidable competitor until I pass her and pad it with 5 or 10 hundreds. Then I can start feeling comfortable. All right, I've got this, and I can, I'll outlive her, hopefully, and keep putting more up. But yeah, so for all I know, she might be pushing that number up out a bit more. So maybe Badwater won't be where I break the world record. I mean, she knows. She's already told a good friend of mine, David Crockett, that she knows I'm gunning for a record. I'm going to get it eventually, but she might try and hang on to it as long as she can, or maybe she might be like, I don't really care, if he wants to have the record. It says she'll obviously hold the female record, and I think the next closest female is probably 140 or something. So yeah, she's got a ton of 100-mile races more than the next closest. And for me, the next closest guy on the list is like 150. So there's 18 or 19 people that have all done over 100 hundreds, but they're all clustered between 1 and 150. No, there's only 2 people who've done over 200, and that's Sandra and myself.
Yeah, I was just looking on they ran, Alexander Shulkin ran 11:14 for the 100, and he ended up also getting the 12-hour record. So Zach won on Friday and then lost his world records on Saturday. And I guess he was doing treadmill running. He did 5:32 for the first 50 miles. Wow. I think his pace was like 6:45 or something crazy like that, overall pace. So pretty phenomenal performance. So, and so you're,
what was this?
That's the world record I was talking about.
Oh, the world record for the treadmill that Zach did. Yeah.
No. I'm talking, Zach lost his world record on Saturday.
Oh, it was the treadmill world record.
No. The guy trains on treadmills. No.
Oh, I got you. Because Zach also has the 100-mile treadmill world record.
Yeah. This guy was just because he was in quarantine, so he had to do a lot of. I'm just reading the article.
Okay, I got you.
No, this guy, I believe he won the 24-hour championship. He's a pretty beast. I talked to Pete Kostelnick after the race, and he's run against him, and I guess he's. I think let me see if I can see. So yeah, he knows the guy, and so he I was trying to find. Can't see.
So he wasn't surprised. He's not just a guy out of nowhere. He's earned his chops, and Pete wasn't surprised that he would have beat Zach's record.
Yeah, well, he won. I'm pretty sure he won the world championship. Yeah, he won in 2019. He won the race. So yeah, he's the real
With how many
deal.
miles? How many miles did he end up with?
283 kilometers. So it's 175 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, which is about what the American record is, I think. Yeah, so like in the 2019, kind of telling you how great Jacob has been. So you had this Alexander guy do 283, and then you had a guy from Hungary go 276. Then Oliver LeBlanc was 299, so almost 300 kilometers. And then we had Jacob was, 8th overall in that race. So top 10, he was our third American, and he helped us score. Yeah, because we had the other American. Well, no, actually, Camille came in 6th overall with 270.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was, that was that's age graded. No, he did 278. It's age graded. So yeah, he did 278 times 0.62. He did 172 miles because he's born in 1981, and so yeah, Oliver LeBlanc did 275, and Jacob Camille was 6th overall that day. And I think the men and women both won it. So now he's got tons of records, and he's like they were all like, yeah, but he's from that old East European Soviet bloc, so you never know with those guys. It's one of those kind of things. And he's done Sir Chamoy races, so he's been around for a while, crushing it. So good times. And so probably gonna let you go here because who knows, you're gonna start heading down those Tatchie Mountains, and I'll definitely lose you once you guys get past Mojave. So you said you got races then in May. What are you doing then? What have you cooked up? Or did I lose you already? I think I lost you. Yep. I think I lost Ed. His microphone has been turned off. Oh, there you are again, Ed. I think I'm going to end up losing you. I'm going to probably end up losing you. You can put the video on, yeah. I think I'm going to end up. You can have the video on if you want. Now it's dark. Kind of looks cool.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, and you can put the video back on if you want. It looks kind of cool with the light, with the dark, but yeah. There you go. I mean, you don't have to have the light on. I mean, good. Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say I'm going to probably let you go because once you guys start getting into Mojave area, the mountains are going to probably lose you anyways.
Okay.
And I wanted to do. I was saying what races are you going to be doing now in May then?
Well, Nenigo for sure, which is where it all started for me. Pardon me. I did the very first Nenigo in 209. I'd never done anything beyond the marathon, and did the 24-hour and ended up with 102 miles. So that was my first ultra, which ended up being my first 100-mile race. And it wasn't like I fell in love with the distance because it took me a whole year to do it again. And the second year I was in the walking boot from a TV stress fracture and was able to match with the 102. And anyway, that's where I met Brian Reedcore and ended up being on his Bower team in 2010. And that's where I really opened my eyes about the 100-mile community and fell in love with the event, the distance, and bad weather and whatnot. Anyway, so Nenigo is Memorial Day weekend, so I'll be there. And I will probably there's a race up in Idaho. It's a 48-hour race that I would like to do. I was signed up for it once and didn't make it out, but that's a good race for me. Might be able to get the win because that's something else I wanted to do is try and get as many wins as I can while I still am able to. I have the American win record, which is 55 wins, and Carl Meltzer has 46. That's by volume, by quality. His wins way outshine mine, but like you say, hey, the race is open to anybody, and I can't help who doesn't show up. But I'd like to break Giannis Course's record of 64 wins. So at 55 now, I've got the 10 to do that. So anyway, any race where I can do, and there's a possibility I can win, I'd like to do that. So that's that race, and then I don't remember, there's some other race in May that I looked at, and so San Diego 100 early first weekend in June was on my radar. I was on the wait list, but then I had heard that it ended up getting canceled because of COVID. So yeah, I've got to look and see what's on the schedule between now and that one.
Yeah, Adam was telling me that he got a message that San Diego was canceled.
Yeah, it was Adam telling me, so yeah.
Because he was kind of concerned because he's like, wait, they were saying like the parks or something weren't letting him. He's all, what about Western? I said, well, they just had the Canyons 100K on the Western States course, so they're going full steam on Western States as far as I know. And, we just had Born to Run, we just had Jackpot, we just had Blue. So here in California, things have been looking up. And like I follow high school and college, and track and field in general. And there's been tons of high school meets in California and around the country. And so I think sporting events, especially, when they're outdoors, if we were, playing indoor sports, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but with being outdoors and the conditions we're doing. So sounds good. Like I said, I thought we just I know you guys are probably getting towards the attached B. Thought we'd kind of wrap it up. We kind of covered your 300s this week, and now you got to the 200, and you've got, I remember you telling me something like, now that I got 200 hundreds, I've got all kinds of new things to do, right?
Oh, okay. So now you're going to hold me to something I said when I was vulnerable, didn't have much sleep, was tired.
No, you told me that before you went to Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to do Instagram and try and get some sponsorship. And, it's cool. I actually met Jen's husband. The guy does videos, and he's a photographer, and he's going to help me get some publicity to try and get sponsorship for my 100 year at the age of 60, which I plan to do in 2022. So yeah, and is my habit. I haven't done anything since the race on Instagram or Facebook, or even posted to my Strava account, any other stuff I've done, just because I live in the moment at the race, and I don't want to take the time to, and I know, as you say, Ed, just get in the habit of it. You can do something real quick, but it's just, something I'm not currently doing. So yeah, I need to get more active on that, and I also need to start working on my book. So are those the only commitments that I made, or is there something else you're gonna hold my feet to the flame on?
You came up with these. You told that you made them as proclamations that when I got my 200th finish, I would do X, Y. We'll just stick with X and Y right now. Those were two of the things. You actually rattled off a couple more. I was more just, work on doing the Instagram and, getting that more consistent and doing that. In fact, I'm sure Squirrel Nut Butter and Ultra Running are probably wondering what in the world went on, because I definitely did tag you in posts, and they were liking those posts. So they're probably like going, wow, Ed's really was hitting it. So you were getting, they were getting, I was tagging Ultra Running and the Squirrel Nut Butter guys in the post I did do for you. So anyways, sounds good. And no, like I said, because you are in the future, like I said, some people watch these things or listen to them, aren't really as familiar. And we'll do a quick recap. You had the world record at 41 hundredths for the year, and then Walter came and got 50. And now you want to try and get 60 next year when you turn 60. So you're looking for support to do that, because it's obviously a pretty monumental task, and it's going to cost you a chunk of change. Not only just, you get helped out with race entries and stuff like that, but you still got to get to the events and flying to them or driving to them. And also be nice, if you're not always sleeping in your little car and things like that, and rentals. And I remember this summer when you were flying around, you were taking Uber rides to airports to races. So, and that's not cheap either. So, right. So that's
Right.
kind of that's what your goal is, right? Is
Yes.
if I want to have someone help, if anybody's interested in helping you out, sponsorships or
there's the Z. Okay, so the X was do more posting Instagram. Y, start writing my book. The Z, put together a Patreon account or something of that nature to where if people want to help me out. So yeah, I don't have that, but I need to get that done.
Yeah, cool. Well, like I said, that, because time keeps on moving, and also actually with Badwater, you're also, if people are interested in doing something with you, Badwater, they should get a hold of you, right? Too. The upcoming Badwater.
Yeah. Well, okay. I had an idea with that to maybe get some fundraising with one of my crew positions, but I was so impressed with this young blind woman, and her friend, who's a friend of mine, Jason Romero, is a partially sighted runner, and he did Badwater one year, and so he's the only blind runner who's done Badwater. Well, she would like to be the only female blind runner to do Badwater, and I think she's fully capable. She has definitely the right mindset, and she's fit, and so I offered her a spot on my crew. So, because that would be helpful for her to be able to get into Badwater. So, we'll see what happens there.
I remember Jason when I was at Across the Years. It might have been the first year he was there running one of the events. I'm not sure which one it was, but remember I used to have that jacket. It was super reflective.
Yes.
And he loved that jacket because he's like, you're the only person on the course that I could actually see and not run into. Because, and he ran across the country too.
Yes, he did.
And
that's true.
And also what happened too is at that race, I showed him the Black Diamond trekking poles, and he got those, and he remember him telling me that those were such a lifesaver. In fact, I remember I used to kid Jason because he partially blind, and whenever I used to see him, he used to always have really good looking pacers, and I was like, wait a minute, why do you get the good looking ones? Because, and he just
can't see him.
Yeah, he thought that was pretty funny, but he used to have that one gal, Donna, really sweet.
Well, that's funny because Jen was saying she has a blind guide, and she can still make out images somewhat and see some shapes because it's degenerative, it's getting worse. But her joke is she has this one pacer who goes with her quite often, and it's this young Asian girl, and she's like, I'm staring at her butt the whole time because that's all I can see.
Yeah. So, that sounds good because, like I said, Badwater is going to be here before we know it as well. So, the clock keeps moving along. So, that's why I just brought it up. So, if anybody listening or watching this and has some ideas on helping you do the 60 in 60, definitely contact Ed. And like I was telling him, like he's going to do a better job at checking those messages so we don't miss out on any of the anybody who's
opportunities.
Stuff. So, what's that?
Thanks, Andy, for keeping me honest and keeping me from being a ghost in social media. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, like you could be a ghost. It's fine. You can just do it and leave. But like I said, it's not cheap, and you're not a professional athlete. Even like we were talking about Jake Jackson. He's got a full-time job as UPS, and then he does this for fun. But he's not. He probably really couldn't. Really, very few people are really making a living off it. Zach and Camille are probably doing okay, and they're full-time ultra runners. But you can count on one or two hands all the people who are actually full-time ultra athletes. It's there's just not a whole lot of money in the sport. Obviously, $30,000 is really nice, and it's more money than most races put on. But then you think about all the other professional sports, and LeBron James makes $3,000 a second, or football, basketball, baseball, stuff like that. So just want to, I want you to have, and it would be awesome for you to be able to go out and do the 60 and have a little bit of cushion. I know myself for years we were trying to, do the Dave Ramsey, pay off our debts, and so when I was traveling, I was trying to do it as cheap as possible. But then once we kind of got rid of stuff like that, it's nice to pick up an Airbnb here, or upgrade on the car just to make life a little more easy. I know you say when you're in a race, and that's probably why you didn't take us up on the offer to go lay down on a cot somewhere comfortable. You don't want to get comfortable because then you won't go back out. But it would be nice for you to be able to travel to and from the races in a little bit more comfort, especially since you're going to be cranking out one a week, more than one a week. So that, and having
the other thing too is it would be nice if I had enough funding to where my wife wants to travel with me sometimes, and when she can't, you could come out and be my handler at a race. So we'd have some funding to allow for that. So
Well, and also the other thing is not only going to make it better for you so you can do better, but also so you can bring someone along, but also so like we can actually come into town not at 7 a.m. when the race starts at 8 a.m. Of course, we did that because of the time thing, but often you were traveling to races and you're flying in that morning. But it would be great to come in a day or two early, maybe a day early, and do a meet and greet.
Yeah,
you know,
especially if I had a book, that'd be helpful.
But what I meant though is if you have some extra money, it's not going to be an issue to actually, how often do you ever go to a race expo or a race, pre-race thing? And so it would be nice to be able, and just logistically, you got to come in on Friday night, but if you could come in, Friday morning or Thursday afternoon for things like that, it would just be kind of great, and it would just help out things, and unfortunately, the world revolves around money, so it's very helpful if and so definitely be working on that, and that's the plan. So congratulations on getting that 200, and hopefully, you get home safely when you get home, and we'll be talking later on, I'm sure. And thank you so much. I'm so glad I came up and talked to you, Rosemary. I was just like, I was doing the math, and it's like, well, I can get a rental, so I'm like, oh, I gotta go. And so I just happened to say to her, I said, hey, can you keep an eye on him and maybe help him get this car? And then you immediately said, I can bring him home. And I was like, oh, this is working. So thank you very much. It was just
I was contemplating flying from LA to Sacramento, that I would just drive home and drop off my car. So when you said that you were leaving, I was like, oh, that's a sign. I'm gonna fly home. I'm gonna drive my car to LA and fly to Sacramento. But then when you said he was going to Bakersfield, I was like, oh, perfect. That's just what I needed.
Yeah, it worked out, and thank you so much. And
of course,
getting him back, because the deal I told him I got to come back Sunday, and sometime I couldn't. Because even if you finish, I really didn't want to get home at 5 or 6 in the morning this morning, and then show up at my doctor's office looking like hell.
Well, and I want to thank you, because there's no way I could have gone from Los Olivos, basically Santa, gotten safely to Las Vegas to do those races. I mean, it just logistically, I got to sleep, and then if I'm driving without sleeping, I could kill myself or something.
Yes.
I mean, it just wouldn't have happened. So it worked out really well that logistically everything just fell into place.
Yeah, it was definitely an adventure, and it was doubly for me, just because I really haven't done anything like this in the past year. So I was kind of a little out of sorts. Because I used to do these all day, crewing and pacing and racing 15, 20 times a year. And I haven't done anything like this since January 2020, when I did and that was in my hometown. So that doesn't really count. So you got to go all the way back till, the Texas race that I'm wearing that shirt. So, okay, well, I'm going to let you go. And you guys, hopefully you'll be getting to Bakersfield pretty soon, by another hour or something, right?
I think so. Yeah. We're doing well time-wise.
Okay, sounds good. And we'll talk to you later on. And I'm sure we'll, we were talking about one of the things we were kind of wanting to do is, you were talking about, we're going to probably try and do these more like we were talking before on a regular basis. I know we kind of got on that Clubhouse kick, but the problem with the Clubhouse is sometimes just no one really shows up, and you can't record it, so you can't really share it.
I just saw one of the Clubhouse themes, all streaming mediums available through Clubhouse. I don't know. Check it out. I think they may have made some kind of change now to where Clubhouse can now be done simultaneously with Facebook or with Zoom. I don't know. Just there's something out there that's now changed. So maybe look into that.
Yeah, they did have an update. I really didn't look at it much this weekend either. I mean, we tried to do that one clubhouse and we were on there for an hour or two and nobody showed up except for Yolanda tried to do a cameo unsuccessfully. So sounds good. Well, we'll work on stuff and just figure out stuff as we go along. So I'm going to shut this down and I'll post it up there and people can check it out. And congratulations again for it. And
Right.
definitely on the way home, get on Instagram and Facebook and respond to some people's comments if you can.
Maybe tomorrow. I'm awfully tired and
Okay.
I'll see. I will, but it might be tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm gonna end it here and
Okay.
we'll talk to you sometime this week probably.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.